Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. You can find the books on Amazon as well, and they are in audio. And the third installment of Raised by These Wolves, Volume 3, will be coming out sometime mid-January. Okay. I have my return guest on. I have Justin McPhail on. He was last on season 6, episode 346, where we talked about how it was never about the money. And today we're going to talk about systemic issues, breaks in due process that invalidate court proceedings, and how psych evals are illegal as well as drug testing, and why and how these federal laws are never enforced. I welcome you back, Justin McPhail, and I want to congratulate you on your Substack, where people can find you at symbol Justin McPhail 1.
Thank you, Maryann. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to
Hey,
have you
everybody.
back on.
It's good to be back. Yeah. So the last time, after our last podcast, some of the audience left comments about the clips and stuff, and I went back and replied to some of those, and uh, was trying to explain in the responses why the psychological evaluations were invalid or really just illegal.
Hmm.
And anyway, my replies were they the next morning I woke up, they had disappeared. So I didn't leave anything offensive. Um,
Hmm.
my replies were kind of long, but it opened my eyes to the fact that if the people that need this information are going to get it, they're going to have to get it from me in some other way. And I want to be sure that everybody, in my case, the hard part's been done. The time I spent in jail was by far the worst of it, and but it would be a shame to let all that go to waste. And the way I feel about it is, I know these attorneys how they are, uh, the whole the whole industry and the whole family court system. If I don't set the record straight about what happened and why it was illegal and overcome it somehow, then these attorneys will be using my name to threaten other families, to coerce them into doing the psychological evaluations and the drug tests and stuff. Uh, it'll be something like this, like, well, you heard what happened to Justin McPhail, right? He refused these tests and he went to jail for 6 years. You don't want to do that, do you?
Mm.
And I just know that that's what will happen if I don't straighten them out. So that's why I wanted to come back. And I want to continue to come back whenever Maryann will have me back and work through some of this stuff with you guys, because I feel like, my case is so long. I could just talk forever about just the stories about just
Right.
just the illegal, just the odd stuff that happened and how far they went to keep me in jail and that sort of thing. But really, the other side of this is that there's people out there that are in court and, that are in court and they're trying to figure out what to do. And if you're like I have a college education, I've had a pilot's license. I mean, I've been in business most of my life, and it was and I had done business with just about every attorney in town in the area that I lived in the north part of the state of Mississippi, really.
Mhm.
And when I found myself in family court, I did not understand any of it. So I can only imagine how people feel that have never had any experience in business or uh, any background at all to work from. So I want to be sure that we get these people some information they can actually use in court to improve their odds of success in their case. These people can be beaten, and
Mhm.
I don't really see anybody out there doing what I think it takes to beat them. And but 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 you can beat these people. I think you can make them take you can make them pick another target is what you got to do.
Mhm.
If you start early enough and you know how to go about it, I think you can. In most cases, you can make them pick somebody else besides you, which is good enough for right now.
Right. Oh, exactly. And I just want to let everybody know we're not offering legal advice. We're not attorneys, and there's no such thing as good legal advice.
This is an education. We're just trying to teach you. We're
Educational,
just trying to teach
right,
you where to go and find the information that you need and how to think. You know,
right.
uh, my partner, uh, Ron Palmer, that helped me really, he's one of the reasons that I'm here. We talked about him last time. He's a constitutional mastermind and writer,
Mhm.
and uh, but yeah, he's had the bar come after him for uh, what do they call it, the practicing law without a license, basically. But they can be beaten too. But you have to watch how you do this because the whole industry is built around secrecy. And when you walk when you walk into the courthouse to say, for instance, to get a copy of your court record, don't be surprised if they try to make you think you have to have an attorney to get your hands on it. Because
Right.
and they may not even know any better. It's not necessarily that they're bad people. They just are indoctrinated into this legal paradigm of you have to have an attorney for everything, and that's not true.
Mm-mm.
We've
Mm-mm.
all been coached all of our lives that when anytime that something came to court, we needed to go and get an attorney. And it may have been true at one time, but in family court, it is not true. And you can expect everybody involved to try to make you feel like an idiot for trying to think for yourself. Uh, but I can assure you, if you don't do it, nobody else is going to. You've got to figure this out on your own. And there are some resources out there now that will help you do that. I'm going to be one of them. I have a Substack now that I'm writing on, and from time to time. And Ron and I are going to try to actually get involved in some of these cases with people and help them. We have to win some of these cases. And then I got guys like Mike Phillips. Mike Thunder Phillips is a friend of mine. He writes
Me
and
too.
writes and writes and writes. He's got two. Yeah, he
Yep.
said that. So, and I want to be sure to mention him here today too. Father and Co. The Thunder Report. I think it's another one of his uh, websites. And he's got lots of stuff out there, but you need to go and read some of that stuff if you're just starting out, or even if you're not. It's good stuff.
Hmm.
So, but there are a lot of reasons why. If I'm skipping around, Maryann, just tell me. Uh,
Oh, you're good.
did I
I
miss
mean,
something?
no, I mean, like these systemic issues are constant in family court because whoever shoots their mouth out first wins.
Well, Ron and I'll have to have Ron back sometime. He can just talk this stuff. The what they have everybody is convinced of right now, and this is where the mistake. This is one of the fatal errors of people making family court is you you're engaged with the person that brought you into court. If you're the defendant, the chances are that you're going to be the targeted individual that's going to probably lose no matter what you do. So
Hmm.
what you have to get your mind around is that you have to think to yourself, calm down, and think that I'm going to lose. They're going to change custody, whatever they're going to do. What I have to do now is be sure that there's a paper trail, and you have to just back up, slow down, and start trying to get everything that you can onto the court record, because
Right.
that's the only that's going to be the only evidence that remains of your case. And that's what everything will be in the future. If there's ever a chance that you're going to come back and have this thing appealed, or get your children back or whatever, it's going to have to be based on the court record. Uh,
And
so
and I'll add to that because you got to check, you have to babysit your docket, okay?
yes, you have
Because
to babysit your docket. You have
when
to
I
first you have to know. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Well, when I met my Supreme Court attorney, when she came in the room, the first thing she said, "Do you know there's things missing out of your docket?" And it's like, probably I haven't really babysat it. There's so much
Yeah.
going on that, you're all stressed out over this case. Your kids have been taken away from you for some false allegation. And then you've got to babysit a docket that they're not putting things on there.
No, well, so this is a look. This is a when we say the docket, and I know because look, my case started in 2015, and I didn't. So I spent all my money on attorneys. I went through 5 attorneys, and
Mhm.
up to that point, I went through 3 more. But right now, that was the fifth attorney was in 2017, two years later, when I finally ran out of money and had no choice but to go pro se. I went to the courthouse to get a copy. It finally occurred to me I had to go get a copy of my record. I didn't know what it would look like,
Mhm.
but this is a docket. If you can see, probably can't see that too well,
Yeah,
but
kind of. Yep.
see it all. But
Oh
it's
yeah. Hold it up
so
again, just real close to the camera.
well. Yeah,
There it is. See, you can see all that people. Sometimes some of these things are missing out of there.
that could be missing. Yeah, this is a list of
Yep.
all of the documents that have been entered in your case, the date they were entered on, and a description of the document or evidence or whatever it was. Okay.
Mm,
Mine is this is the first page. Mine is like 17 or 18 pages long now. I'm up to document 284, but this is a timeline, is what this is of your
mhm,
case. It's what's happened in your case from the time
mhm,
it was filed, and everything that is done in your case. Oh well, in court, every conversation you have with your attorney, and every conversation you have with the judge, and everything that goes on in the courtroom is based around trying to keep information off of this piece of paper right here. They do not want anything on here because when you this is the official story of your case, and when it goes to the Supreme Court or of your state to be appealed or anywhere else, this goes with it, along with a copy of all the actual documents. This is just an index, if you will. But if there's nothing on here,
mhm.
the appeals courts cannot consider new evidence. They can only rule. They can only look at your case and the wrongdoings, if there are any, based on what they can consider is whether the judge made a mistake or not in the lower court based on the evidence.
Mhm.
If there's no evidence, then he didn't make a mistake. So that's where they get you. So they're all in it together. The lower courts are trying to keep you from having a record. The appellate courts are going to be trying to, in most cases, trying to, uh, they're going to do everything they can not to address family court issues they're just not going to hardly give you constitutional review. So, which is what you need.
Right.
All right. So, court record is one of the first things that people need to understand they have to have
Right.
access to it. You have a legal right to it. When you go in the courthouse, you can tell these people you ask for it. If they tell you have to have an attorney, you can call me or you can call Maryann. She can call me, but you can go on Chat GPT and ask questions like this. I live in Missouri or Idaho, and I want a copy of my court record from my case file. I'm the defendant. It's going to tell you that you have a right to obtain it. You have access to the courts. Everybody has that in every state. So, but that's how you have to think because they're going to try to. Don't be surprised if you meet some resistance
Mhm, mhm.
trying to do that. The so, but back to the he said she said issue. Everybody is embroiled and trying to defend themselves from the accusations that their ex made that are not true. And then they're never true. Uh, if they were true, they wouldn't be useful because what they're really trying to do is present something that engages you so heavily in uh, an altercation with them that you cannot think about what's really going on.
Mhm.
What's really going on is you're being escorted around what would normally be a constitutional showing of evidence to enter your case. In other words, there are three or four what we call systemic issues that take place right in the very beginning, or should take place right in the very beginning of a case. That that the that the Constitution and the U.S. Supreme Court has already said years and years ago is necessary before a state can interfere with the rights of the individual. See, these cases, the term family court was invented to distract people from the fact that these are really just fundamental rights cases. In the eyes of the federal government, the Constitution, and the Supreme Court, there really aren't any child custody cases. Everything is it's all your right to custody is a core fundamental right.
Mhm.
Uh, it's the right of the individual. They're your rights individually. They're not tied to the marriage or anything else. If you are the father or the mother, you have the right to your child. It doesn't matter if you were ever married. You have a half interest in that child,
Mhm.
and so it's a it's a core fundamental right. It's the same thing as free speech, or it's just a right in the eyes of the federal government. So proceedings are proceedings by the state to violate your fundamental rights. The state can violate fundamental rights. They're not impervious to all attacks, but they are impervious to attacks, unwarranted attacks, unprovoked attacks, or so so they they just remember these are proceedings against fundamental rights. They're not really child custody proceedings. It's not really it don't matter what your ex-wife said or what you said to her. If you didn't violate the law, and then it's not even their business anyway. What's supposed to happen? What's supposed to happen before the state can invade your rights or interfere with your rights? It never happens in any state.
Mhm.
Is very first thing, the state has to actually appear in court, not the judge, not the attorneys, your ex-wife's attorney or your ex-husband's attorney. The state itself, the power of the state is who's interfering with your rights. Make no
Mhm.
mistake about that. It's your ex-wife or ex-husband's attorney, but the judge works for the state, and it's the power of the state that can put you in jail for contempt. It's the power of the state that's about to enforce the violation of your rights. It's a state action
Mhm.
to that extent, and the state has to appear and justify this intrusion into your privacy before you can even be. They can have you into court to prove this, but they're not supposed to do anything else to you until they have proven beyond really a reasonable doubt. I think clear, convincing evidence standard is the standard, but it's a high burden. It's a really high burden the state has to meet to justify having this individual and their family into this courtroom to harass them.
Mhm.
I mean, if you just stop and think about it, this is the reason that we all thought we had these rights. We go into court and we thought we had rights. We don't really hadn't really spent much time articulating those rights, but we thought we had them. And what's so shocking about family court is you find out you don't have any. Well, you do have them, but they're not enforced anymore. For some reason, they're not enforced. So the federal government has stopped watching the states do
Mhm.
this. They've agreed to stop watching while this happens. Out of every one of these cases, people, every one of these cases, not in one case does the state appear and justify the intrusion into your privacy. The cases that they do justify are going to be cases that are handled by another department. Your real domestic violence cases, or your real kidnapping cases, or your real parental interference cases where the laws are broken and somebody's taken to another state, whatever the deal is, are usually handled by another court system. It'll be, CPS if they do their jobs correctly, or it'll be the youth court. I mean, it's really just a criminal investigation that they have to conduct if you break the law like that. These family court cases, uh, I can show you. I'm going to keep writing about it uh, until I'm blue in the face. But there's an article on my Substack right now called "The Greatest Rule." 95% of the cases in the United States of America, and in each state individually, that are uh, where a family is brought into court and custody is changed, would not the dockets would empty overnight if this one rule was enforced. This one rule, it would if the states had to meet the burden that they're required to meet to have you in court over nonviolent fundamental rights litigation. None of these cases would meet the burden. I mean, or hardly any of them meet. 5% of the cases would meet the burden, and that 5% is most likely been handled by another branch, by another state agency already. Family court is nothing but a shakedown. It's the biggest scam that's ever been. And
Mhm.
I mean, I don't. I said it may not be the biggest one there's ever been, but you can just imagine if you had the power to subpoena somebody to court under threat of jail and take their money and their kids and kick them out the door and make them apologize for questioning you about it. You know how addictive that would get to after. It's just, but it's awful.
Right.
It's awful. So rule number one is they don't have any business in your business to start with. That's the first systemic issue that everybody needs to be aware of. The state never acquires jurisdiction to rule in your case. They don't have any business in your case in most of these cases. And it's easy to figure out.
Hmm.
But what that's supposed to look like is a guy carrying a briefcase into the courtroom, it unfolds it and says, I'm here with the state, and this is why these people are here. We have evidence that this child's been harmed. This is the injury, and it's traceable to this guy right over here or this girl. It has to be, it's a criminal investigation, just like we've all come to think of Chris, I mean, this is not rocket science. So they want you to think it is. They got this 500-page rule book written for how to litigate family court, but there's no litigation going on. It's all a scam. There are no laws. That's why the bottom of the rung, the bottom of the barrel of the attorneys that are rolled out of these law schools practice family law because there's no law to be practiced. That they're just walking around cutting deals all day, literally.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The next thing is
Can I
the
add?
psychological. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I add to that with these attorneys? When they roll out of law school, if they can't get into an upper echelon law firm, then they go right into the DA's department with a bunch of other lawyers who couldn't cut into get these law
Yeah,
firms,
I
right?
mean,
And then one of them has this great idea to become a judge because they still can't get into these law firms. And then all their cohorts vote them in. And then that's where all these connections are. And why a lot of these cases fail is because these attorneys are BFFs now with the newly elected judge that they elected.
yeah, it's
And
a
that's how it
yeah.
happens because that's what happened in my case. I saw it, and the opposing attorney was BFFs with the judge, and the case went smoothly in their direction.
Well, sure, it's a club, and in fairness, I want to say in fairness, all fairness, you know, law school's not easy, I'm sure, uh, and I think a lot of these, a lot of people grow up, maybe they want to be an attorney, or they come to that conclusion while they're in college, and they have an idea in their minds about what they're going to do. I want to be an attorney. I want to get involved in this thing and start helping these kids out, and I want to be a good attorney. When you once I think you come out of law school, you pass the bar, you're already about halfway indoctrinated, I'm sure, by that time, and to the idea that you're going to have to go along with the program. But
Hmm.
you probably at that point find out when you start to practice that it's not going to be like you thought it was. I mean,
Mm-mm.
there's nothing you can do about it. You've got a huge student loan, uh, uh, note that you got to pay off, and if you don't do this, you cannot be I mean, they're going to get rid of you if you don't play ball. You're not going to make a living uh, as an attorney starting out in family law if you don't play ball. So I think that they probably, and then of course once you go along with the program a few times, you have blood on your hands at that point. So you're as interested at some point you become as interested in keeping it a secret and making it more advocate. You're part of the deal, and you don't want it to end either, because if it ends, you might go to prison. It's that
Hmm.
serious. But I'm not saying some of these people don't start out wanting to be good people, but they're not your friends because they
No.
cannot be your friends. It's not up to them anymore. You know, I had attorneys come to me in jail. The last attorney I hired had a son that worked for him. He was also an attorney, and they came. You just got to imagine, Bo and I, my son, had been separated for years. At this point, we were talking on the phone every day, but they didn't know that. And this by this time, we were talking on the phone a good bit. It was 5 years into it,
Mm.
and they came to the jail and tried to convince me that Bo, my son, wanted me to take the psychological evaluation. They were, and that's how sorry they were trying to get between us and convince me that he was disappointed in me, and I'm sure they told him the same thing. And this started taking place as soon as I had him paid. I paid the man $4,000 or
Oh.
something from the jail, and immediately this started. And that's just how bad it is.
Oh.
So I mean, of course, I called them both liars to their face, but
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you did. Sometimes it
well, I
feels
mean,
good to do that.
yeah. So that's how bad it is. So um, the, the next item on the agenda, I may be going too fast. I get excited about this stuff sometimes, but
Well, we have
you
to.
know,
We have to because
I
we're educating.
yeah, I didn't have if I had had me when I was going through it, I would have it would have been better.
Hmm.
It would have been a lot better. I would if I could have found the information that I have now at my fingertips that I didn't have access to all that time. Even before I went to jail, this stuff you just couldn't find a resource that you could rely on for this kind of information that I'm giving you now.
Hmm.
Uh, the second thing is the drug test and the psychological evaluations and all the stuff that they this stuff is all devised very and they've learned to work these things very very successfully to the extent if you even think about saying no to one of these tests, everybody in town, and first of all, you feel pressure. You know that it's come to a point where if you don't do this, you're going to look guilty.
Hmm.
There's a very specific reason that our founding fathers uh, were sure to include rights in our Constitution that left it up to us to refuse these things.
Hmm.
You know, and this is a perfect example of that. The state is putting you in a position where you're gonna feel ashamed if you don't do it. You're gonna be ostracized by the community maybe for refusing a drug test and a psychological evaluation or anything else uh, that they have no business asking you to take to begin with. None, zero. It's a psychological evaluation, and there's an article on my Substack now about it. I wish you'd go and read it. It's it's not only unconstitutional, it's one of the most offensive unconstitutional. It doesn't get any worse than a psychological evaluation. You cannot search a person's body without their consent, and you cannot search a person's mind without their consent. They
Hmm.
are delving into your mind to pull out your most inner thoughts to try to use them against you in court. Is all they're doing. It's not going to help you. Number one, it's going to hurt you. Number two, but more importantly, number three is that they have no business ordering those tests. The reason is because there are two stages of every proceeding in America. In American law, every proceeding has to happen in two stages. You can imagine for a minute criminal court. The suspect is arrested based on probable cause. He has to appear in court uh, immediately to establish the fact that they have a person uh, named this, it looks like this, they think committed the crime. What they're doing is every one of those hearings that they have, eventually they're appointed an attorney, they have an arraignment. That's all to get this person to trial. The state is building a jurisdiction each time. Each time they have that person in court, is to add on another layer to prove the state is proving that this is the right person, that this is the crime they think he committed, that they have a good reason for thinking he committed that crime, that it's not somebody else with the same name. This is all done just so they can uh, get this person into court to have a trial, to adjudicate. They haven't even adjudicated yet because they got to do all this stuff.
Hmm.
That's the adjudication phase.
Hmm.
When they try this guy and he's convicted, if he's not convicted, he's released. If he's convicted, then the judge enters the second phase, which is the dispositional phase. This is where they determine what statutes apply to his sentence, what crimes he committed, and basically what they're going to do about the fact he's guilty. How long he's going to stay in prison, rehab, whatever he's going to do. That's the dispositional phase. In family court, it's no different. I mean, it is different, but it's not supposed to be. Meaning they bypass all of this because you don't know any better. If you ask enough questions, you're gonna find out that I'm telling you correctly, and you're gonna find out that they are sensitive to these issues. A dispositional order is a drug test order or a psychological evaluation. These things are all reserved for people who have lost their custody because they've been proven unfit. If you've you have children, and these children are being harmed, and the state proves they're being harmed, they have to have a concrete injury traceable to you. That's an actual injury. It can't just be, it's basically a criminal investigation that they conduct to prove that you're unfit. It's not easy. And you lose your fitness. I mean, you become unfit. So now, just to get back in your children's lives, you have to overcome certain hurdles. Now the judge can say, look, we feel like, you need to go to psychological evaluations, or if you've got a drug conviction and you've been in several shootouts over drugs, we're going to be drug testing you now to be sure these kids are safe around you.
Mhm.
That's all in the dispositional phase. But the state cannot order these tests to generate evidence that they don't already have, which is what they're doing. All they're doing is trying to build a case against you to justify what they're about to do next. It's highly illegal. And if it was anybody else, I mean, it's just, you know, it's not even close.
Ah,
It's huge.
mhm.
So you have to refuse these things. We have to get in the habit of, if you have a right, people have died for these rights. This is highly important. Our founding fathers built, they call them rights for a reason. You exercise these. It don't matter what your mama thinks. It don't matter what your preacher thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. You have the right to refuse some things for this very reason. And they're trying to convince you that you don't, but you do. You didn't sign anything when you became a parent that said that you relinquish all the rights that you used to have. So they can't make you do it in custody court or family court anymore. They can make you do it on the side of the highway.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you need to know that. You need to read about it and find out. It violates the Fourth Amendment search and seizure laws, Fifth Amendment right to
Is that due
not to
process?
incriminate yourself. Yeah, and the psychologist. I could just tell you my story about my psychologist. You'd laugh your butt off, but there's the thing called informed consent. If you decide to take it, they have to have it a signed form. They have to get your permission to do it. That's what they're really doing. You feel like they're making you do it, but what they're really doing is when it goes to the higher court, you consented to it. Is how they're going to make it look.
Mhm.
They need
Mhm.
you to agree to it, and that's why they come to you and say, "Well, you should probably do this. Don't you want to?" And you say, "Well, yeah, I guess so." Well, that's the consent that they need to justify it. If you refuse it, it's going to cause some problems. It's going to cause some problems, and it's not going to be. Let me tell you what. If you get put in jail over it, call me because I will be on top of it. You won't find anybody else in American law that's been incarcerated for 6 years over a psychological evaluation. You may find somebody that got put in jail for it, but it wasn't but 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It wasn't long. It's bad, but there's no case law on it because they're very careful to keep it from coming to any kind of an argument for the courts.
I also think, Justin, that they scare these parents because when you're in there, you're already disadvantaged as soon as you walk into a courtroom and you're
I agree.
scared and you think justice is going to be done and that's not happening. And I misspoke the last time when I did have my psych eval because I thought, well, I'm going to do it because this will end everything because they'll see I'm normal. Okay, so it came out
Exactly right.
normal. And the judge even ordered the ex to have a psych eval, which he just kept not doing until the judge had to scream at him. But the last sentence that the psychologist read, and it says, motives of the ex-husband need to be investigated. And when I saw that, I just felt like this is awesome. But the judge didn't
Yeah,
care
yeah,
because they're all connected, right? The opposing attorney and the judge were BFFs in the DA's department. And when the ex finally did his psych eval, it was done by a CPS counselor, which that's not how that's supposed to be done either.
uh-uh.
No,
No,
no, he
no.
has to go into his insurance company and find an independent contractor to do the psych eval, which is what I did.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you didn't. So, because it was good, they didn't use it. Is that what you said?
You're right.
Since it was good, they didn't. They just didn't use it. So if when you go into that situation, if everything works out perfectly, you'll be back where you started. But which was your case. I mean, it went perfectly, but you're still just back to where you were
Oh,
before they ever
exactly.
ordered it. It didn't help you one
No.
bit, and you took a huge risk because it could have gone some other way. And I, in my case, I don't know if I covered this last time, but I refused it. They weren't supposed to put me in jail for refusing the psychological evaluation,
Hmm.
but I was behind on my child support that little bitty bit, so they used that. They confused everything and had me in jail until I paid the child support. Then it became obvious that I was in for the psychological evaluation. But
Right.
before, mm,
You didn't
wait,
even owe much in the child support arrears. It was only $1,400.
it was
Give me a break.
$1,400. I had already paid. I had already paid for 25,000 in, and I had a very lucrative contract with Colonial Pipeline Company as a contractor for them. Uh, you know, going all over the country doing survey work and stuff, and they were very happy with my work. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this child custody case, it just ended just like that. My project managers dumped me, which I will cover later on. Guys, Roger and Lamar, if you're out there, I'm coming. It's not over yet. Just wait and see. But
Hmm.
it all ended on suspicious under very suspicious circumstances. But that had to happen before I could get behind on my child support. So anyway, that's a whole other story. But
Mm.
the uh, the psychological evaluation, I said in jail once they locked me up. I was trying to think. I knew it was a scam, but I was trying to think how I could prove it. So I came to the conclusion that if they would record it, if they would record the psychological evaluation and enter it on the court record, so that I could, uh, so that I could dispute whatever was said,
Hmm.
that I would take it. And the judge said no, he couldn't. I asked for a hearing, and I brought that up, and he said he couldn't have it. He could not order that it be recorded because he didn't have the authority to do that.
Mm.
And then at the next hearing, he said he didn't have. It was too expensive, and they just kept on. They are not. The only way it works is if they take you in this room with this person that's a qualified professional who's expert witness whose word they're going to take over Jesus Christ. Trust me, because he's worked for them.
Hmm.
But he has to go in a room with you alone. They can't be in a. You can't take your attorney in with you. They got all these different rules about why it may interfere with the evaluation. But the point is, they need you to be in there with him so that what he says later is his word against yours. He's the expert. That's what it's all about. Nothing
Hmm.
more. Nothing. They would in some of these cases. I don't doubt that if two people have money or two people are equally positioned, that they may allow independent evaluators to come in. But in my case, they would not allow me to have an independent evaluation before, or I mean, there was nothing I could do.
Right.
And I took this, and did I tell you, I actually took the psychological evaluation. Did I tell you that last
Mm-mm.
time? I'd been in jail for several months, and once I had the judge on the record saying that they would not um, allow me to record it, I thought, well, probably I have what I need now to kind of, if I can outlast these people. I've got some evidence that I tried to do what they wanted me to do, and they wouldn't go along with it. So, uh, and I knew it was a trick, but I didn't think that they could harm me in just one visit. Too bad. So I agreed to take it. All right. I agreed at a hearing, handcuffed,
Mm.
to take to submit to this evaluation. The judge said if you only submit to this evaluation, you can be released. And so I agreed. And a few days later, I was transported to an hour and a half away to take this evaluation. But what I did not know is when they took me back to the jail after the hearing, my ex-wife's attorney prepared the order rendering the judge's ruling in my, you know, so after a hearing, there's always an order prepared that renders the discussion that went on in the
Mhm.
hearing is valid and it's entered on the court record. It's called an order.
Mhm.
The ex-wife's attorney prepared the order. I agreed in court to go submit to an evaluation. He prepared an order that said I would continue to go back to the that I said I would submit, and that I would continue to go back to the psychologist as many times as it took to convince the psychologist that I was fit to be released. But they didn't send me a copy of the order to the jail. So I didn't have that information. So they tricked me. You see what
Hmm.
they did? They got me to agree to an evaluation on the premise of the fact I'd be released afterward. And then they entered an order saying that I would continue to go back. So that insinuates that it's going to be more than one trip. Does it not? All right, that's common sense, but I didn't have that
Wow.
information. I went to the evaluator. He spent an hour and a half being a total dickhead,
Hmm.
useless piece of crap that he is. Uh, and if he wants to dispute any of what I'm about to tell next is highly uh, has been talked about a lot anyway. If he wants to dispute this, we can take polygraph tests or whatever he wants to do. I do not care.
Hmm.
He told me an hour and a half into this evaluation, he said he was done. He had everything he needed, and I would not have to come back. He walked out the back of the room. I had a sheriff's deputy waiting outside in the hall. He walked out the room the other way, and after he left, I got up in handcuffs and ankle cuffs and waddled out. They took me back to the jail. When the evaluation report came a month later, it said that I was not released after the evaluation, for one thing. But when the report came in, it said that he spent all this time talking about what a bad guy I was, and that he diagnosed me with delusional disorder or something. Persecutory. He said I was having delusions that I was being persecuted by the GAL, by my ex-wife's attorney, and by my ex-wife. He said I was imagining it all. So
Oh,
I mean,
oh
but he said
no.
at the end, he said I didn't finish it. I didn't complete it, that I left early. So the next time I went to court, the judge said, "Well, you got up and walked out. You know, how would I do that?
Yeah.
How would I do that?" But that's just how they do you. You can that's probably a worst case scenario, but do not take psychological evaluations for your sake and your child's sake.
Hmm.
We have to learn, people, that this is a war, and you may go to jail. You'll be threatened, but you have a right to refuse this. And if you stand on it long enough, uh, justice, I'll get personally involved over it if I have to.
Hmm.
You can bet on that. I have backup, and I know what works, and I know how to get these people to let go of somebody. And we have to refuse these things. This has to be ended. We have to have a process for winning and not a process for just not losing eventually. So that's the second thing. Where are we, Maryann?
Federal laws that just, they're not enforcing anything. Nothing's being enforced.
Enforcement, we're missing enforcement. Is what we're missing. It's that we do not need more laws. The the way this is supposed to work is has already been mapped out, and you know the government cannot solve all your problems. If you pick a bad mate, if you pick a bad husband or bad wife or whatever you say, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's your problem. And if
Mhm.
violence or some severe abuse is not the result, then the court system doesn't have much business involved in it. You know,
Mhm.
which is fine because they're not going to do a better job than you would anyway. Now, if you're dealing with an abusive, severely, you know, I think we all know this, but nobody wants to see anybody abused or the children abused. But short of severe, actual, concrete signs of abuse, the state has no business in your child custody dispute. It it doesn't. There's it's a family matter, and it needs to remain that way. It has to. What's happened is we're taking power away from the powerful people. The healthy segment of society that normally regulates the unhealthy sector is being harassed, and
Mhm.
it's making our whole fabric of our communities weak. You cannot harass the the uh, the healthy segment of society like they're doing. I don't, so it's a parent issue.
But then they'll gang stalk you
Yes,
where I felt I was between the ex's wife who enjoys her job in the courthouse and
yes.
all these people that showed up on his side, and I just had my parents while they trampled on your due process rights.
Well, the whole system is designed to escort you around everything I'm telling you right now. And you can, I want to, I don't know exactly how to deliver this information to people and give them confidence that I'm right. Because when you're alone and you're starting out, especially, this is all fine and good, but what am I going to do about it? I got to go to court tomorrow, and the judge is looking at me funny, and my whole family is telling me I'm crazy for watching these videos already. And you know, what do I do? How's this going to help me?
Mhm,
And what I can tell you is that you're under attack, and they're going to take your children if you don't do something about it. And then we can all call ourselves victims as long as we want to, but it's not going to help anything. Nobody cares. I mean,
mhm,
I care. Maryann cares. People that have been through it care, but nobody else cares. And if you don't get off your ass and do something about it, they're going to take your children. And it's not going to matter if you're right. You have to stand up, and you have to shake you have to stop, or you have to not panic, and you just have to, or you can panic, but just stop panicking eventually, and you know, settle down and get in touch with me
mhm,
or Maryann. If you dedicate yourself to doing this,
mhm,
you can really increase your odds of success and decrease your odds of total failure. And you have to understand that they don't care what the truth is. In fact, they probably know the truth and they're trying to hide it because they have to hide it to do what they're doing to you. Uh, you can you can know what I'm telling you is true. These rights that I'm discussing with you right now
mhm,
are what set me free from jail. And you can't just suggest these rights. You have to assert them in such a way on the court record that they know that you know your rights. And they're there on the court record, and you've asked for them verbally. Now you don't have to be assertive with the judge. Like there's no need to be a smart aleck or just be calm and ask the judge. Said, these rights I read where these are my rights. Are these my rights? And read them out to him and ask him, are they my rights? And you're gonna see a change if you do that.
mhm,
If they have to lie about it and climb over these rights to do what they're doing to you, it builds liability on their side every time they do that. They have to, you got to put them in a position where they have to lie to do what they're doing.
mhm.
It's
And then
already a
you'll have
lie.
fraud on
Yeah.
the court when you file your lawsuit.
You have yes, to get any kind of relief, you have to build such a case in state court that there's no question about what happened to you. And if you're asking for these rights, uh, and they're denying you the rights, it's a whole different ballgame than what it's going to be if you just don't ask for them. I mean, in all fairness, most of these cases can be prosecuted anyway because that's your attorney's job. That's
Mhm,
the judge's job is to be sure that you understand your rights before he violates them, but they don't ever do that. They just
mhm,
escort you around them, and the federal courts are there to protect the state courts and family law. So they're going to say, well, there's nothing on the court record. We don't see where they asked for their rights. Uh, but this will work. I'm telling you, it will work because it took more effort to get me out of jail than it would take to when the judges and attorneys see you doing this, they're going to take note and they're going to try to intimidate you first into stopping. But if you don't, they'll start to get nervous eventually. You may never know this. Uh, they're not going to tell you that, but you'll see a change. I'll
mhm.
assure you.
And I think a
Uh,
lot of parents are stuck because they have evaluators that are attached to these courts. Whereas when I was told to get a psych eval, I had to pick an independent contractor. In fact, the judge said, "How did you pick this guy?" And I said, "Well, I called my insurance company. I printed out 300 psychologists. Okay, that's how many there are in the area of Erie County, right?" So I told him, I said, I went eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And that's the one I picked.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I see they were not happy with that psych eval because there was nothing wrong with me to begin with. And I think a lot of parents, there's nothing wrong to begin with, but then they're telling you to get a psych eval
Well, if
when
there's
they should be
anything
getting
wrong
the
with
psych
yeah,
eval.
yeah, 100%. I mean, uh, the other thing, if you're until you everybody that's a parent is a fit parent. The only way you lose your fitness is if you've been adjudicated unfit after pretty much a criminal investigation, then you're not a fit parent. But everybody else is a fit parent.
Mhm.
Now, there's a presumption if you're a fit parent that you love your children more than anybody else, and that you're doing the best you can to give good advice, and that they can't compare you to your neighbor. You're the fit parent. It's assumed that you're already acting in what you think is their best interest. The state cannot require you to prove that you're fit because you're already fit and you're presumed fit. So what they try to convince you of is we do this to see if you're fit, but you're already fit. They cannot. It'd be like saying come back. You got to take another driving test to be sure you can drive, and you already have a license. You,
Right.
it's it's all this is all very well documented federal law, and the Supreme Court said these things over and over again. They cannot bypass that fact. And if they have to have a lot of, it's a really, really high burden that they have to meet to invade that right, the right of privacy of the family and of the individual. And if you ask for these things, they're going to look confused, and the judge may not even know it. But you need to let him know that this is what you think, and that you've been, for sure, it's all there.
Right.
So
I know this is probably another podcast, but with custodial interference, we've got penal codes on the books for the last 40 years, and these cops aren't taught on it. The judge doesn't care about it. It's just another big mess on top of everything else.
it's
And the
it's
people, yeah, it's like I have to, it's like I think I told you I go to counseling. I go to counseling to deal with people that need to go to counseling.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
right. I know it. You have to. It's because you do it all day, every day. They're just crazy part of the time, but you have to hear about that stuff from crazy people all the time. Yeah, there's no law against being crazy either, by the way. If you don't break it down, as long as
right.
you don't rob a liquor store or shoot somebody, you can be crazy all day long. It's not really anybody's business,
Mhm.
It's not. And you know, in fact, I would advocate on the basis of if you're crazy, I may get along with you better because you're not a zombie like some other people are that just go along with everything they're told.
Right.
You have to
And
think for yourself.
if they are calling you crazy, then maybe you should get an ADA advocate on their rear ends.
I would think. I mean, there are ways to do this. There are ways to do this. And Ron and I are going to work together to try to get some people some relief. And we're going to have to, uh, one thing about this industry is a lot of times when people, by the time somebody is to the point where they want to turn to somebody like me or Ron,
Mhm.
they're out of money. They've paid attorneys, and the attorney is going to keep you thinking he's doing a good job until you're out of money. That's what they're going to do, and that's what they're supposed to do. But they're not. If they do everything right,
Mhm.
you're going to you'll come out feeling lucky. You'll say, "Well, my attorney did a good job. I get to see my kids every other weekend, and
Ah,
I only had to spend $50,000." But that is wrong. You've been defrauded of your custody and spent all your money, and he didn't do a damn thing. Nothing. By the way, attorneys are very sensitive on one point. They have a weakness too. That's their insurance, their malpractice insurance. You can find out who their insurance company. These attorneys are weak too. They have to have insurance, and the state bar. If you want to see, if you want to climb Mount Everest, try to find out which insurance company your attorney's insured by and
hmm
the policy number. That's highly coveted information. The bar protects it. You cannot find out who an attorney is insured by. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Try to prove me wrong, but that's how corrupt they know. These insurance companies don't. It's just a bet. They're betting that they get paid these premiums and that this guy's not going to violate somebody's rights too bad. But they
hmm
are violating rights every day, all day long. And if these insurance companies can be made aware of that in such a way that you don't get sued for defamation
hmm
because it's true, and you just want to make them aware of it. And if they drop them, they become vulnerable.
Right.
I mean, it's a fact. So
Right. And also
you better.
what I did
Well,
learn and what my attorney did tell me, he gave me a lot of information that kind of backfired on him. But he said when you complain about an attorney and you file a complaint, even if they don't do anything to that attorney, it's a black mark on their record. So I thought,
they
oh,
do.
that's great. So I tried it out and it does
I
work
did too.
because my other attorney, when I saw her in the courthouse, man, she gave me the evil eye like, oh.
Yeah, they're trying to shake you down now. I mean, they're mean. They're really mean.
Well, they just do the right thing, and then I won't have to fill out these complaints.
Yeah. Well, now you can go to ChatGPT and I mean, with the complaint process, I did the same thing happened to me, and it's going to happen again maybe. But I'm better now than I used to be. It's going to be harder for me just to deny these complaints. But they they just I mean, I sent them a list of witnesses and people they could call and talk to and all this, and they just dismissed them like it was nothing. So the thoughts is guarding the hen house on the complaint
Uh-huh.
process.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially the judicial performance commission is what it's called in Mississippi.
Mm.
Every state I think has one, but it's all a joke, really. So,
Yeah.
but you can. When I'm thinking about it, if you have an attorney, it's going to be hard for people to understand that they can't go hire an attorney and get anything done. So when they come to us, they're usually out of money. But we do need some money to keep going. We got to find a way. We got to find some people that can donate to tax free to some fund. We can do this for people. But I want to help, and I've got the knowledge to do it. I'm just telling you, I'm seeing it. Everybody I see out there doing anything like this is pretty much engaging with the court on their terms, which is talking to the GAL and trying to work out something with the psychological, evaluator and talking to the judge. But that's playing their game. You're meanwhile back at the ranch, you're losing everything. The way to handle this is to get this stuff on the record in the beginning, or as soon as you can. It doesn't have to be in the beginning as soon as you can, and then start writing affidavits every week about what happens and filing them on your court record. Have them sworn affidavits. My
Yeah, and
attorney
make
told me
sure they're
this.
on your docket.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. The court
Yep.
record. You got to write these affidavits out. This is a federally protected item. The power of the affidavit is
Oh yeah.
amazing. It's just a little small step, but it's so powerful.
Yes, it
Your
is.
aff, your affidavits have to be taken as testimony and taken as true unless they dispute them. If the other if the other attorney comes back with a counter affidavit and tries to make you look like a liar, you have to continue filing until you get it straightened out. But they're probably not going to do that
Hmm.
because the fact that you're filing anything at all is going to be a big problem. Well, you're going to
Hmm.
find out they're going to have your attorney. You can do this whether you have an attorney or not. In fact, if you have an attorney, you need to for sure do it. He's going to tell you not to. They're going to tell you can't. There's all kinds of things. I'm just going to be, you're going to think the sky is falling, but it's not going to. Just keep filing and you're
Right.
going to see what I'm talking about. You have to do that. If you want to find out if your attorney's straight or not, ask him who his insurance company is and see if he tells you. He's not going to. Then tell him you talked to me and that Ron and I will be glad to work with him to be sure these constitutional issues are entered on the court record. He can be in charge. We don't want to tell anybody what to do. We just want to be sure that you get your rights on the record
Hmm.
and be sure he follows through with it. Even if he says he's going to do it, he's not. And I hope he does. We need one good attorney. If the attorney will do this, there will never be a problem because what he said, he's a judicial officer. If he whatever he says in court is a big deal, the judge cannot or will not go against an attorney who is stating the law on the record if he's right.
Hmm.
That's why it never happens. If it did happen, the judge could not do what he's doing. So you have to, if you want to test your attorney, if you don't know if he's crooked or if he's working against you, give him a test. Ask him for his insurance company's name and his policy number so you can report him if this don't work out right. Then uh, ask him about these rights and tell him that you met some people that will be willing to work with him. In fact, starting out here for the first few cases, we may consult him. We may work with him for free. He's going to do all the work anyway. We just want to be sure we get these rights on the record. So that's just you're going to find out if what he's about. Might save you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And if he
Oh,
drops you,
yeah.
you can call us. You'll have some money. We
Yeah.
don't need much. We need some. You know. Cool.
Great. I'm so glad I had you back on. And I can put your email, which is Justin McPhail at att.net.
That's right. And look, uh, we need to, we need you to leave comments, and submit to Maryann anything what your concerns are, what you want to hear about, and what, you know, I don't just like to hear myself talk.
Mhm.
I would like to address the issues that you people have that maybe have slipped my mind. It's been so long since I didn't know anything about it. But we want to get you information that you can actually use. And I know that some of these articles and stuff you read are you can comprehend them, but at the end of the day, you can't take anything from it that you can use in court. So we want to correct that. I want to beat these people. I want to put them out of business, and I'm 100% dedicated to it. I mean, nothing else matters to me until this is solved. I'm ready to do whatever. So thank you, Maryann, for having me
Yeah.
on.
I'm glad you came back on, but don't jump off, okay?
All
It's on the Gavel
right.
podcast. Is to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, and you can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe and Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms even I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Justin McPhail. You're a
Okay.
wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be back.
You
Just
will be
invite me
back.
back. I'll be back. All right. Great.